actually happens inside the cylinder. In a normal diesel setup, you've got air being compressed to around 500 psi and heating up to over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Then diesel fuel gets sprayed in. The heat ignites it. But diesel is a heavy fuel. It's oily. It doesn't want to burn completely, especially at lower RPMs or under heavy load. So you get this lazy, incomplete burn that produces black smoke and leaves power on the table. Now introduce propane. When you inject propane into that air intake, it mixes thoroughly before compression even starts. By the time the diesel gets sprayed in, you've got propane molecules mixed throughout the entire combustion chamber. The propane ignites first, creating a more complete combustion event that forces the diesel to burn faster and hotter. Here's the key. Propane lowers what's called the activation energy. That's the amount of heat needed to get the diesel burning. With propane in the mix, the flame spreads faster through the cylinder. That means all your diesel burns during the power stroke, when it's actually pushing the piston down and making power, instead of burning late and just making black smoke. The result? Instant torque. We're talking about gains that feel like someone just strapped a turbo to your turbo. Old-timers report 30 to 50% torque increases with basic propane setups. Some claim more. The exact numbers depend on your engine, your injection timing, your turbo setup, and how brave you're feeling that day. Here's the beautiful part. This is dirt cheap. We're talking about a propane tank from Home Depot, a regulator valve, some rubber hose, and maybe a manual shutoff valve if you're not completely insane. Total cost? $50 to $75 if you're shopping smart. Compare that to a proper nitrous kit or a turbo upgrade, and you start to understand why this became the go-to modification for truckers who needed more pulling power but didn't have sponsor money. The installation is stupidly simple. You're basically teeing into the air intake between the air filter and the turbo. The regulator controls the flow. When you want power, you crack the valve. The engine vacuum sucks propane into the intake. Done. No computers, no sensors, no electronics. This is mechanical simplicity at its finest. But let's be clear about something. This is also sketchy as hell. You're introducing a flammable gas into your engine. If you screw up the mixture, you can cause pre-ignition, you can melt pistons, you can crack cylinder heads, you can turn your engine into a very expensive paperweight. The guys who do this successfully understand fuel-to-air ratios. They start small, they tune carefully, they respect the chemistry. The other issue is, it's illegal pretty much everywhere for street use. The EPA considers this an emissions modification. They're not wrong. You're fundamentally changing how the engine burns fuel. Even though propane injection can actually reduce smoke and particulate emissions when done right, it's still not approved. So if you get caught running propane injection in a competition pull or on public roads, you're looking at fines, potentially big ones. But in the world of tractor pulls, drag racing, and private land shenanigans, propane injection became legendary. There are entire forums dedicated to dialing in propane setups for different diesel platforms. Cummins guys swear by it. Duramax owners have their own techniques. Power stroke enthusiasts have been running propane since the 7.3 days. The science backs this up. Studies on dual-fuel combustion show that introducing gaseous fuels like propane or natural gas into diesel engines increases thermal efficiency and reduces combustion delay. You get a faster, more complete burn, less soot, more power, better fuel economy under certain conditions. This isn't snake oil. This is legitimate chemistry being applied in the dirtiest way possible. Now let's talk about the risks, because there are real ones. First, you can absolutely overdo it. Too much propane creates too much cylinder pressure. Connecting rods don't appreciate excessive cylinder pressure. Neither do head gaskets. If you're running a stock bottom end and you start dumping massive amounts of propane, you're playing a dangerous game. Explosions inside your cylinders are supposed to be controlled. When they stop being controlled, bad things happen fast. Second, propane is heavier than air. If you have a leak anywhere in your system and your truck is parked in an enclosed space, propane will pool on the floor. You know what happens when propane pools and someone flips a light switch? You get an insurance claim and possibly a crater where your garage used to be. Third, you need to understand that diesel engines aren't designed for this. You're operating outside design parameters. That means you're the test engineer now. Every truck is different, Every setup behaves differently. What works on your buddy's Cummins might grenade your Duramax. There's no manual for this because no manufacturer will touch it with a 10-foot pole. But here's why it persists, because it works, because guys who needed to pull heavy loads up mountain passes discovered they could crack a valve and suddenly have the power to keep moving, because racers found they could run propane in the pits between rounds and make consistent power without the complexity of nitrous systems, because the system is so simple that you can fix it with parts from a hardware store if something breaks. The best setups use dual-stage regulators to control propane pressure and flow more precisely. Some guys run solenoid valves tied to throttle position, so propane only flows under heavy load. The really sophisticated setups monitor exhaust gas temperatures and adjust propane flow accordingly, but the core concept remains unchanged. Introduce propane, burn diesel more completely, make more power. There's also a fuel economy angle that nobody talks about. When diesel burns more completely, you're extracting more energy from each drop of fuel. Some truckers report better mileage when running light propane injection during highway cruising. Not huge gains, but measurable ones. Of course, you're now buying diesel and propane, so the economics get weird in a hurry. The bottom line is this: propane injection is a legitimate power modification that's been proven in real-world use for decades. It's also dangerous, illegal for street use, and requires a level of mechanical understanding that most people don't have. It's the definition of high-reward, high-risk modification. Is it worth it? That depends entirely on what you're trying to do. If you're building a competition truck and you understand the risks, propane injection can be a cost-effective way to make serious power. If you're just looking to blow smoke and impress people at the truck meet, you're probably better off with a tuner and a cold air intake. But if you're the kind of person who likes the idea of making massive torque with hardware store parts and agricultural-grade propane, then welcome to the club. Just don't come crying when you scatter a motor because you got greedy with the valve. This is diesel performance at its rawest and unfiltered. No fancy electronics, no warranties, just propane, diesel, and the laws of thermodynamics doing their thing inside your cylinders. It's beautiful in its simplicity and terrifying in its potential. And that's exactly why it's legendary. If you want to see more banned diesel tech that the EPA doesn't want you knowing about, make sure you're subscribed. There's a whole world of this stuff out there, and we're just getting started.